So this is my video for week two's YouTube discussion. I'm gonna start with the Articles of Confederation just because that's kind of where the book starts. And it's because it's like the first form of the Constitution. Um, and I mean, these past 2 weeks were, constitutional law, admin law, and then constitutional law again. So I figured, Articles of Confederation is a good place to start. It was adopted in 1781 as the first constitution of the US, and it was very reactionary in a sense because obviously our new country just broke away from this tyrannical government that was had very strong federal power. And so they intentionally gave a ton of power to the states out of that fear and intentionally made our federal government super weak. There was no national judiciary system, no independent executive. So it was very reactionary to that. And I think they had the right intention when it came to that, but it wasn't very effective. And obviously that shows because we don't have it anymore. And things like Shays Rebellion, that was kind of the clear sign of this isn't working. What else? It also failed due to the distance between states and commerce and cultural differences between states, factionalism, which I'm pretty sure it was Madison who really hated factionalism and wrote all of that in his Federalist Papers. And so to amend the Articles of Confederation, there was the Philadelphia Convention, which I guess it's so sneaky and drama in a way that they their reasoning for the Philadelphia Convention was to revise the Articles of Confederation and make them better, but it was really just to also propose the idea of the Constitution. I also like how they changed, in the book it mentioned something they mentioned we the states to we the people. I don't know, I guess I just didn't know that, and that was a cool fact. Thomas Jefferson wasn't there, one of our founding fathers. Again, something else that I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, okay. Obviously, so there was the Virginia plan, which was kind of the big states wanted more representation because they had more people. It was very it shaped the Constitution, but it was opposed by many, especially Rhode Island, who was real tiny and had a smaller population. Small states really opposed the Virginia plan, which led to the Great Compromise, which led to the Congress separation of the House and the Senate. Those things I just I knew about the Articles of Confederation, but the Philadelphia Convention I feel was kind of glazed over, at least in my experience in history classes. And then another big thing is Marbury versus Madison. Again, I feel it's just something that I used to hear about all the time, and I guess it just I heard about it and I might have learned about it for a day, but it wasn't until I read this book and listened to the lecture that I really got some more background on it. For example, I didn't know I guess the Adams versus Thomas Jefferson thing. I didn't know that that was the reason. It was the midnight judges, and Thomas Jefferson was no, they're not getting their pay. And pretty much Marbury was one of the judges who took it to court and was I want my pay. This can't be legal. And that's when they were no, it's unconstitutional, and they did their judicial review. And I also didn't know that it was so controversial, I guess, between the judiciary branch and the rest of the government, when they were this is too much power, this is crazy. I guess I just didn't really, it didn't click until I read the book and was oh my gosh, there's so much more on this, I feel than I was taught. So I know that was still just a little introductory. I feel like these like past few chapters in like constitutional law and admin law, like they were like background, but it was like expanding the background. It was like a very like yes and like it wasn't just, you know, this is the separation of powers, judicial, legislation. Like it was that, but it was like expanding more into it, which I feel like helps understand like context and background, which makes it like easier to like learn some of those things further, like building off of that. So it was like very introductory stuff, I feel like, for this first week, so there's not like too much, I feel like, to like talk about and have opinions on, but like learning those little like extra tidbits I feel like really helped me.